Right now. Oh, we get live.
Hey, normally I get to start, but I'm so glad that you got to take the reins. Yehuda Sunshine here from Cyfluencer, the cybersecurity thought leadership platform. I'm excited to bring you yet another action-packed conversation with today's cybersecurity leaders, like Alexandre over here. You see, he's over here.
I'm looking for a leader, but where is he? thank
See,
you,
that's the
thank you,
thing.
for,
My
thank you
pleasure, my
for.
pleasure.
Yeah, happy to be there. Happy to be. We were just speaking before starting the chat. I was like crazy sick this morning, so forgive me if I lose my voice on the way. And it's funny because you just started, like that's an influencer and all that stuff. And fun fact from within, from inside, it's not that big of a thing. It's like it's growing by itself, and I
Mhm.
get like many people reaching out, even like student and people wanting to start in cyber, like, yeah, you are my role model, you are an inspiration. Hey buddy, I don't feel like I did anything special. It's just like I'm sharing. But yeah, so there is no like magical recipe, just being true to what we think. Oh, and the sun is coming around. You see that?
You see it? I can see it's like it's right about sunset over here in Israel. Depressing at 5 o'clock, but I'm glad that by you the sun is coming in, going through the winter clouds. Um,
Yeah.
so it's interesting though that you're kind of touching on what is an influencer, how do people look up and gain information, and I think that that's what's kind of interesting about your persona, where it's not something that's overblown. It's like I'm going to share all this information with you. You can kind of do with it what you want. It's not trying to force an idea. It's presenting all of the different spectrum and giving people the opportunity to be able to sort through it with some expectation that has value. So I think that that's really interesting, and I'd love to hear how you initially got motivated into cybersecurity. We talk about now people are looking up to you. What were the initial steps where you're like, this is a career path? Because it wasn't a career 20 years ago, 30 years ago. How did this come to be?
Well, so two things. First of all, I do have a bias in what I share. My fight against the cloud abuse. So that's one bias. But I trust people that they can actually pick in the sharing the information what matters, what makes sense to them. And I always tell them, like, multiply sources, verify, see, and build your own view on things, because we all have a view. And I'm trying to bring the more as I can, but it's good to have many views. So back to your question, how did that whole thing start? I've been in IT for more than 20 years. And back then, even in the 90s in university, I was part of the sysadmin team on the computer networks and all. And, IT, firewalls, that was there. We had to manage the exposed ports, services, everything. Vulnerability patch management was already something for the IT people. So I think because then I've been doing many things like development, IT management, and director of IT. And my last position, well, the one I was in during the time cybersecurity became a thing, because it kind of became a thing. Like, it did explode as a new field between um, 2011, and now.
Mhm.
And back then, I was working as IT director in a company in Montreal. I just moved in Montreal in Quebec in 2011. I was French before, and so closer to your time zone. And uh, and
Are you
what
still
what ha-
Are you still French now, or you gave that up? You're officially no longer French. You will no
I'm
longer be a
actually
French.
still both French and Canadian. So but we only can keep two, because I was born Dutch and French. So I'm no longer Dutch for a while, and I'm just French and Canadian. But Europe is very easy to move to. So, well, when you have one citizenship, then in the European Union, it's easy to move. So
Mhm.
anyway, I've been doing that stuff: IT, securing system, protecting the infrastructure, and all. And cybersecurity was part of it. And then I faced requirements, because we were working with that company with some governmental institution, military stuff as well, which I did in the past. And this brought a lot of compliance requirements, the NIST stuff and all that thing, and the governance requirements. So basically, I was doing cybersecurity within my IT duty and responsibility. It was part of me. You manage the
Mhm.
systems, you get to protect them. So I And nowadays you see that IT is not cybersecurity. I mean, you see specialists in one side, but my background was IT, and I didn't evolve. I guess as long as cybersecurity became a thing, I kind of stayed on that path and basically standing on my IT skills and then doing cyber. But many things in life brought me on that field. A thing, I mean, people, I spoke about that quite some time, but I had I've been threatened back in France due to some work stuff and things that went bad with some terrorist group involved. And I've been targeted and chased by these guys, and that brought light on the need of privacy and controlling your data, controlling your digital trail and everything. So that was the first wake up call, because if you don't control that, you cannot manage your threats. And that was the first thing. And then when immigrating to Canada, they do all the back check log, your history, your studies, and they check that you have no criminal record and all that things. And then during the process of immigration, I had my data in many credit bureau. I think that was one big. I think Equifax had a big incident back then, and a couple of things like Nice and Finance and all from cloud. And their cloud has got breached, and you got these letters saying, your data, your PII got leaked away, and now you have to watch for your credit stuff because people can steal your identity. And suddenly you realize, although I knew that, but it's even more real when you face it, that if someone tried to steal your identity, society is not ready to help you. So there is no support, no real solution for someone whose identity has been stolen to actually get a normal life. So if your identity is stolen and abused, let's say someone spend money and take credit line and stuff on your name, and you got someone knocking at your door saying, hey, you need to pay, and then you need to prove it was not you, then you get crime stuff around your identity, and you can no longer travel and stuff like that. It's up to you to prove that you're innocent. So that's a real nightmare, and all of that should not happen, and we should have measures to support people. So I think that technology grew so fast, ignoring the reality of people's life, and it started to affect people's life more than in a more wrong way, and they have no real way or meaningful way to escape from that. So my take right now is raising awareness, putting responsibility and accountability back where it belongs. So if an organization take data, they take responsibility and accountability. Sadly, we don't even see that. There was I think last week, Google got fined, and they did actually settle for paying $500 million of abusing tracking of Android users on the phones.
And for Google, it's almost inconsequential. Whatever it is that you find them, they're happy to pay it if they don't have to really change best practices.
That's the whole point. And two things in that. First of all, it's not enhancing because they just pay, it's just cost of doing business. But the people getting the money from that are not the actual victims. It's like barely reaching
it's like going into some government slush fund, and then maybe it'll be allocated to this program, but once it goes in there, it's lost and gone.
Yeah. So it's like it's wrong. It's wrong to me. I mean, it's all a show. Trying to save appearances or whatever, but to maintain the craziness. So my fight on that is and cybersecurity basics. When we see in CISSP training, in any training that you get, the basics, it's all about doing things right. And if everybody do the thing right, there is no issue like that. So this morning I got a call about an incident in a city, those here in Quebec, and I was aware that the posture was not fine, and it's happening. You know what? I was so tired of seeing that it's on Lockbit. It's like, full amount of data is out and stuff like. It was predictable. It was that you knew it. So why didn't you do the right stuff? And nowadays, and this is also why I share about this kind of information. I only share when it's in mainstream media. By the way, a lot of people reach out to me thinking they found a 0 day, they found an exploit, they found data, they found abuse or whatever. But I'm telling you, people, we cannot legally share this information. Otherwise, you're going to be sued. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to face.
It's a lot easier when it goes through the public domain, and then you're reporting this conversation instead of saying it's like, Where is the source coming from? Okay.
Yeah. So yes, it's fun to know, and yes, I see a lot of stuff that are coming in the news, but I will not share them because it's not my my call to do it. There is a lot of
Mhm.
legal involvement. They need to get the communication plan, risk management, impact assessment, and all that thing. So, but the thing is, if you would have been doing the thing right, you would not have reached that mess. Because you can have an incident, like nothing is bulletproof. We work in the field, we share awareness about it. But you can contain an incident. So do it right,
Mhm.
people, do it right. So back to your question, because we were speaking about being an influencer or something like that.
Mhm.
So we don't have a lot of power, being an influencer. I think I'm close to 62,000 followers on LinkedIn right now, and
Mhm.
that's growing. I'm running after Chuck Brooks. I don't know if you know Chuck Brooks.
Oh,
Is a
of
big
course.
game, and he's
Mhm.
maxed out on connection. So I know he would have been happy to connect, but he's already maxed out, so we cannot connect. So I'm running after him. He's like now the next step to catch. Although, although what happened is that due to the social media stuff, we do not control the impact we have on LinkedIn. Let's say, because if I
Mhm.
share something, I have no way to make sure that the 60,000 followers will see it. And something
Mhm.
I saw in the trends, like when I had like 15,000 followers, most of my posts will have more views than what I do right now, because it's more like
Mhm.
spread and isolated, and also there may be more people sharing about this,
Mhm.
but the impact is not as controlled as we thought. I mean,
I mean,
as you would think.
I always tell vendors that it's like, you know, what wins, content is king. If you have a really good conversation, if you have people really engaged, it's going to go out there. And it's difficult to thread the needle. There's not one formula that's going to be able to work, but the idea is making it interesting, making it thought leadership instead of something that's product heavy or sales driven, and bringing the conversation in there. And that's what the difference between something that's very static and something that makes people think and elevates their persona from somebody who's a brand ambassador to somebody who's an industry expert. And I think that that's something that's really interesting about cybersecurity specifically, where a lot of people will say, it's not like these other industries. I can't be bought. I'm happy to give my time, but the idea is giving experience instead of being this blind participant in some company's marketing.
I agree. I mean, this is part of making a difference when you bring something, because people are not dumb, and there is so much content, so much information around. Everybody try to do the same thing as other do's and stuff like that. On my end, my take is I will share things according to my value, what I think is right. So this is why I say you should have multiple sources, because my truth is not your truth, and
Mhm.
I have my own. Well, I I think I'm right, like everybody think they're right. so so I share. I always try to bring a value. Like if you the share I do, and even working with Cyfluencer stuff, the content I
Mhm.
pick is always something that bring value. And even if you don't go directly for whoever is writing the content, first of all, you're gonna keep in mind that they brought some nice information. But the thing is, putting question, you question yourself: did you do it right? Did you cover that thing, that best practices? If you didn't, maybe it's time to look after it. So the idea is like, I'm an ISO 27001 people, and one of the key concepts in ISO 27001 is the continuous enhancement, the continuous integration of enhancing your posture, reviewing your control, making sure it's efficient, it's actually working. So basically, each share is an opportunity to learn and to question yourself. Like you
Mhm.
see an incident reported, like you should ask, could this happen to me? And if it could happen to me, what can I do to avoid that? So that's what one of the things to take the shares. And sometimes it's about best practices. I do share a lot, despite the fact that I don't like cloud because of the
Mhm.
leaks. I really love when organizations do share some best practices about airbag policies, role-based access control policies, audit, backups, integrity, because I don't think many actually realize the amount of work that is needed to maintain a proper posture, even if you
Mhm.
go in the cloud. The famous shared responsibility model that is advertised seems to make everybody feel that no one is responsible for anything. That's one of my rants.
Hmm.
But in the end, there are responsibilities, and when you pick that up, you have to do it right. So I think I did share a couple of these. Like, let's say, if you cloud, you must have done this. There is no option. You take the data of people, so you have to do it right.
It's
Because
the
yeah,
Truman quote. Do you know the Truman quote? The buck stops here. You know, who's going to actually cash the check, and who's just going to be passing it over and passing it over, so they don't have to really take accountability. So in kind of going in there, I want to transition. We're talking about how your image and your understanding of risk management and cybersecurity has kind of evolved. Who are the people that shaped your journey, and who are the people that you look to now? We talked about Chuck Brooks a little bit. Who are the people that you look to and say, that's somebody that I think is really interesting, who understands, cybersecurity risk, who understands the evolving technology, who understands these different elements and how to bring them together to make it
so
accessible.
there are many aspects of it. There is the technical aspects of being, deeply knowledgeable in tech, knowledgeable in governance, or whatever in cybersecurity. So I've been greatly inspired by Chris Roberts. I think everybody knows
Mhm.
him because of his true speaking. He brought things as they are, and I really love that. Say things as they are. There is no, I mean, cut the BS. Come on, this is what it
Yeah,
is.
he's
Do it right. You see?
very straight shooter in giving over, how he feels for the brutal honesty, so people can learn instead of, let's talk about their feelings and then we're all going to get breached.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's something that I like. And also on my end, there is a bigger drive. Think out of the box. Think about the impact on society, on humanity, at a r- big level. What makes a difference? What makes us as human on the planet as a better group, better organization? Can we do better? So that's one of the goal I have, and my position on cloud as well is also driven by a thinking about: is it resilient? What happens if we lose the connection? Can we keep the capability if there is something really wrong happening? Can we avoid chaos? That's something that because people don't realize our reliance on tech, on everything connected, is also putting us at great risk if it fails. I mean, the bigger we rely on it, the bigger the crash is going to be. So each time we do something, we invest like connected cars and all that stuff. We speak about, state-sponsored actors. So what if all the cars are connected and one of the state-sponsored enemies get the end a hand or a backdoor in these cars and suddenly decide to disable everything,
Mhm.
so how can you run away if you
You don't
cannot
even need
start
an
the car?
enemy. You could even have a good intentioned player who's just learning the system, and people's
Yeah,
lives could be at risk. And we talk about, you talk about like cars and interconnectivity in the healthcare. I don't think people put it into context. What's cyber risk? If a hospital gets shut down because of a ransomware attack, people die.
yeah.
How could we make this into something that's very real?
Correct. So this is always the risk vs benefit. What we get, because we want the best services, we want the best quality, we want convenience, but there is also a price to pay, which is privacy, which is freedom in the end. Because that's something I was speaking at the World Ethical Data Forum, I think a couple of weeks ago. And
Mhm.
the point I did raise is that who are we and what's our decision making process as humans? And the way human work is, you ask me what's my source of information, what's my things that influence me. So there is like common sense, and many people that raise topics and stuff. But fact
Mhm.
is, the source of information that we consume define our decision making process. So if you control the information that people get, you control their decision making process, and you can make them believe that their freedom or the thing they choose to like or not like or do or not to do is out of their decision. But fact is, they did react on a stimulus, on something that it make them behave that way. And when you think at big scale like that, and big tech can do that because they have so many input and levers and channels that they can make a difference on how we behave as people. And therefore, it asks the question of freedom. Are you really free if your decision making process is controlled by a third party? So
Mhm.
that goes as high as that. When
Yeah, we
I
just got we just got very deep there.
Yeah, but this is what it is. When you get a smart speaker in the home, collecting everything you say as a family, your political views, what you like, your emotional levers, and basically automation and AI allows to paint a very nice profile of you And if I want you to react, I just have to combine that collected information, the profiling as you as a human, and then play on the sensitive side of you through different communication channel. I could have, I don't know, sponsored communication on social media because, like, let's say me, target me. So, I like freedom. I don't want cloud. I don't want monopolistic or monoculture and stuff. So, that if someone is going to share something like, we did quit the cloud because of the cost, because of the dependence, I'm going to like and share it. I'm going to be like, yeah, I love it. This is the way to go. So, but that's a quick example. But the fact is that this is a lever to manipulate and use the influence of others. So we have to be careful in our decision-making process. And this is why we need to think twice. I don't think many people think that deep, they just sometimes just like or don't like or something like that. But ask yourself, why is it that you like that? What makes you like that thing? What makes you like the cloud side? And did you assess the risk? Is it something that you really accept? Did you read the terms and conditions, like the Chrome browser? If people would read and understand the terms and conditions, no one would be using it. It's just because. But so it's how far do we want to know? So that's my drive, and basically, I'm a kind of an overthinker. So I try to bring a more in a concise way. I summarize these questions and try to wake people about just awareness and being more informed in their decision-making process, so as actually they have more freedom and a better decision in what they do. More according to themselves. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So you touched a little bit about the immigration process and how this kind of initially formed your vision. What were some of the events that changed your understanding, your approach to cyber risk? Was there something where you had to do a 180, where you failed, or there was something that didn't work out, and you really had to critically reassess? Why do I believe this way? Maybe something that I need to do is different.
So one of the key things is, like, when you are director of IT of an organization and something goes down, you're going to be the one on call. They're going to run after you, scream after you, or blame you for something that didn't work. So basically, when you are raised and you grow in a responsible and accountable work, so you don't want anything to fail, and you want everything to be under your control as much as can do. Because if something goes wrong, you will have to be in charge of bringing it back or explaining what went wrong or anything like that. So you cannot outsource blindly, because you're going to be betrayed. And, I did subscribe to services and stuff like that, and something went down and there was no explanation. And I would have management screaming after me like, yeah, you have to fix it. You have to fix it. So trust me, when something wrong happened like that, you will not get me twice. I will have compensation measure, so that thing never happened again. I have like an escape way, secondary redundancy, whatever, however. And thing is, this is part of my continuous risk assessment. What if it goes wrong? So basically everything's like, what if it fails? So sadly, just to give you an idea, when I go on I do some ATV, like off-road four-wheel drive,
all-terrain video,
all-terrain vehicle. And because of my way of thinking redundancy and risk, each time I take the machine, I'm like, oh my, there is only one engine there. If that thing fails, I'm stuck. you see, same thing with the car. And we drive car every day, and we accept that there is only one engine. While on my end, due to my infrastructure and responsibility and accountability, I like to have twice of everything. I have 2 pair of shoes, 2 pair of, I don't know, wrench. I have everything twice, just in case it fails.
I could see you going in a small caravan, with a trailer full of replacement parts.
Oh yeah, that would be so. If something happened because you are far away, there is no phone coverage. So I don't know, satellite phone or something else, just to have a redundancy, stuff like that. That would be, and obviously, family or my wife would stop me saying, no, it's gonna be okay. There are people there if something goes wrong, and that's also about trust. Trusting others. Like trusting that others will help you, and you must have confidence in humanity that you are not going to be left alone. So basically, when we hit the road each time, you kind of trust the other ones, and we have to, because you trust everybody to drive in their own line. So at some point, we have to give up a little bit. But my own trend would be to have everything fully backed.
Mhm. Do you ever feel that you could turn it off? I mean, I one day a week I don't have phones, I don't use the internet, and I find it's so interesting to have that parallel between the digital overload and this information coming at me from so many different angles and being able to turn it off. Do you feel like you're in control with it, or do you feel like it still permeates a little bit more than you can cut it off?
Um, so I think cutting it off, I tried, and it was a bit extreme. There are a lot of people who tried to fully disconnect. It doesn't work really, but I did
Hmm.
have some countermeasure and compensation measure around that. Like my phone doesn't give notifications,
Hmm.
so it's never popping, blipping, or anything. It's I'm gonna watch it because I decide to watch it, and
Hmm.
that did start. I did start a long time ago about that because I was annoyed with the notification always keeping your attention. And now I
Hmm.
use a phone OS, which is a Graphene OS, so I don't even have Google Play services on it, so nothing can give notification, and I'm really happy with that. No notification. So that's like lowering down the stress and focus. Now, as into getting fully disconnected, the only time I get fully disconnected is actually when I'm on my ATV because the phone is in my pocket in case I need to call for help. But I don't watch
Hmm.
it because you have to watch the terrain
Yeah, you're
while
gonna
you
you're gonna
drive.
die. That's how you die.
Yeah,
Um,
and at this time it's like I don't know. During the duration of the ride, there is
mhm.
nothing, no tech, no notification, no news, no stuff like that. And sadly, when I get back, I get like plenty of stuff to check. Like, oh boy, what did happen in between? And I sometimes I
Mhm.
play catch up. Sometimes I let it go. I mean, I'm getting older, so I learned to let it go a little bit more.
Mhm. The world can function without you, possibly for 5 full minutes.
Yeah,
So,
and fun thing, speaking about that social media thing, we often think that if we are not on it, people are going to notice or people are going just to stop following you, thing like that. But no one noticed the absence of something. That's the
mhm,
thing. On social media, there is always something filling the gap. So if you are not there, doesn't change much. You come
mhm.
back and it's gonna just continue where you stopped.
Yeah. And I find it's like if you're always sharing value added content, you're not forcing the hand. You're saying, I'm going to bring something that's going to draw a conversation and I'm not going to be superficial with it. Whatever it comes out, people would appreciate it. If you're filling in those holes with something that doesn't really matter, this fluff, this ad copy, people they don't want to hear it. And then when you have something that's meaningful, it gets lost in the flow anyway. So
Yeah,
I think that it's better to be softly spoken than to be too loud. Um, with
yeah.
with that said, I think it's really interesting how you have your professional career, your personal passions, this commitment to the community, this overarching understanding of what's necessary for us to be secure and trying to give back. How do you balance these different personas? Because they could very easily conflict if your company says you need to scale back your evangelism, if you need to how do you bring all of these together so you feel that you're professionally satisfied, but you're also helping the community personally?
So thing is, I had a big burnout when I was the IT director of that company for many years in Montreal,
Hmm.
and it was like a call, and I had to quit at some point because I could not take a break easily. So I did resign from my job, and I thought I had some time and I would take it relaxed. But to be honest, after 10 days not at work, I was stressing the hell out, like, wow, how I'm gonna survive, and I had already some success on LinkedIn and all, but it
Hmm.
doesn't make a living out of that. So it's like, yeah, it's nice, but it's not gonna feed you.
But you can't go to the
Um,
gas company and say I'm popular on the internet. That doesn't work.
no, it's well, actually, I started to because you get mature and all, and I like to share this awareness. I like the learning curve. I like the exchange online, what it brings, and the connection it brings. I met so many people. I mean, like you at Cyfluencer from Israel, and
Hmm.
everybody around the world that would not exist without it. So this is extremely exciting. So the next job I had, I told them, part of my job, I'm gonna spend at least half of my days on LinkedIn. It's gonna be learning, sharing, awareness. We will leverage that information for the
Hmm.
work. We will bring value to customer, that knowledge and all that stuff. But
Hmm.
it's part of my day. So I had that thing. I was a security director for a year, And then I did prepare a security plan and everything, and the organization wasn't ready to apply the changes. So I was that CISO that had no power in a way. So I was
Mhm.
spending this is the year I became LinkedIn top voice. As you can guess, I was
Yeah.
spending 23 hours a day on LinkedIn. And
We always wonder. It's like you have a pretty sweet deal because everybody. I'm like, he has his own responsibilities, but he's also spending so much time, actually vetting this material. Because I don't see this thing that's just like randomly like darts thrown at a board. It seems like there's a very clear trajectory, and you're very conscious of what you're putting out there, even if it is at a scale.
yeah, I definitely read and check because I mean it has to be meaningful. I don't want to be trapped into sharing something that just backfire. Well, it can happen,
Mhm.
we're human. But yes, I
Yeah.
spent time, and after some time, I met the CEO of the company I work for now, and I told them as well. But the fact is, they came to me because they needed someone public. They didn't
Hmm.
need someone actually sharing awareness, representing the brand in a way, and be able to speak at events and all that stuff. So my social media growth did somehow embrace my professional work.
Hmm.
So I'm basically in between again, like 50% of my time when I can do it. Sometimes I have like busy days, but as much as I can, they allow it, and also they don't try to tell me not to say stuff because
Hmm.
the company I work for, they also the mothership does digital transformation, and I've been mean against digital transformation without proper control, etc. So someone may expect like tell you no, do not say anything like that, do not go against the business. So for sure, I'm not going to speak about customers or stuff like that, but I still share the thing as I want. I have no
Hmm.
censorship on that way, so I like it. And when they did hire me, they knew about that. So
I
so
think
this
that
is this
gives
is
them more credibility by having a dissenting voice and saying we either follow this opinion because we understand what the other side says, we assess their risk, and we don't necessarily agree with it, or it's important for us, even if we want to go in this direction, that we have another voice to be able to say maybe that's not the way, we need to reassess.
correct. And the fun fact is about all my anti-cloud stuff, I get called on mandates to actually assess the how meaningful is a cloud migration that is sold to a customer, and I want to know how I see that, why, how, and ask the difficult questions. So that's funny because I had to do a couple of mandates like these, and it's nice because it shows that some organizations are actually willing to wonder if it's right, if
Mhm.
the whole thing is meaningful. And believe it or not, I did recommend the migration to cloud with the proper controls with
Mhm.
many organizations because it was making sense, but it involved responsibility, accountability, placing proper resource, doing it right.
Well, I mean,
So
that's what it seems like it comes down to. It doesn't seem, from my perspective, that you're objectively opposed to the cloud endpoint. It's people doing it irresponsibly, not assessing what the risks are, and then implementing this because they have a mandate for a digital transformation. They have to do X, Y, and Z, and they're not really thinking about what that means. It
correct.
could provide this benefit, but if you're not thinking about it, then you're applying something because you're getting pressure instead of applying it because it's the solution for your problem.
Correct. And also, there are some stuff that cannot be fixed in the current public cloud stuff. I mean, you cannot protect the
Mm-hmm.
data. So I always say public cloud, public data. And if you want to do private or sensitive information, think about it. Like, if you think about the big cloud player, there is Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and all,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at your business, if you're a business owner, you should ask yourself, is that big business a challenger in my own vertical? Do they do the same stuff that I do? And if they
Mm-hmm.
do, is it making sense that I put all my intellectual property, my knowledge, what makes my business a difference in the market, in their hands, in a readable format? Although the term and condition are not officially saying I'm going to steal your data, it's
Mm-hmm.
technically it's written. They will need access to the data for replication purpose, for availability, blah 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 blah, which make it legally entitled to read your data. So there is that's my issue with the public cloud, and when the data is not encrypted in it, is like it can be stolen, and the big tech can actually pick what business might be a threat to them and either
Mm-hmm.
buy them before they get too big, or destroy them or copy them or whatever. So they are not going to do that officially, but if you do your risk assessment and you are a growing company, you should think twice where or who you give your data to. Would you place your data in your direct challenger hands? Because it was called not too long ago industrial spying. I mean,
Hmm.
intelligence collection. So, I mean, be worried a little bit about that. Think twice. Maybe sometime dedicated cloud or use solution that encrypt data before reaching cloud stuff.
Hmm.
That's the common sense. Because I'm afraid that if we don't do that, there won't be any new challenger on the market, and the current monoculture and monopolistic situation is not going to change. And this is wrong because we know that organizations that stay too long in a monopolistic situation do no longer drive in the best interest of the market or people. It's just about protecting.
They don't innovate. They just push
That's right.
profits.
Correct. So and at the same time, if they have the power and the levers to cap innovation, then this is wrong. This is wrong for humanity. This is wrong for the planet. So again, we speak out of the box a bit further,
Hmm.
but can a company today grow and challenge one of the big players, if you think about it, without jeopardizing their existence, giving away everything they had that would allow their success. So, and if you think about it, it's extremely challenging today. There is a cap. You cannot go above that stuff.
That's tricky. So I want to kind of switch towards people transitioning into cyber. I know a lot of people follow you trying to advance their careers, and they want to kind of use your trajectory as a path for themselves. What's some practical advice that I know, right? I at least when I look up and people are like, "Hey, how did you become where you are?" It's like blind luck and nepotism. At least I know how I got here. Other people trying to use their skills, I wish them success. But for you, what are some of the practical advice that you could give over to somebody who's saying, I want to make that next big step. I don't want to be in this lower echelon. I'm thinking about 5, 10, 15 years from now. What are the experiences that I need to get under my belt to be able to really make a meaningful impact?
So be the one who bring the solution, who makes a difference, and that involve a lot of self education, training, reading, curiosity. Curiosity is the key, but curiosity, understanding. And when you start to have some skills in the field, try to share these skills with others, try to make it bring value to others, and you're going to realize that when you try to explain the concept that you think you know to others, you realize that there is much more digging to do to be able to explain it properly. I'm speaking at a Linux meetup from time to time. I mean, less these days, but I did a lot of them. And when you have to make a presentation about any topic, basically you need to search. You need to make it understandable to them. And things that looks obvious to you, they are not that obvious in the end. And when you do that work, you actually learn and you get stronger after that. And it brings relation, it grows. And when you do that, you kind of become the person who bring the solution to organization, to people. And you do that one topic, another topic, people come to you as they have a problem, and then you are willing to help. You search because you want to know, whether it could be technical, could be conceptual, could be governance, could be cyber. So they explain you the situation, they tell you what they did try that didn't work, and they look for help how to make it work. And this is a great opportunity because you learn what did not work, so you are not going to reproduce the mistakes, and then you learn
Hmm.
how to find a solution, and you become stronger and stronger, and then you discuss with other people, and what you saw in the past helps you bringing more information. So it's a continuous enhancement of yourself, to the point that you are the one people want to ask about, because they know you've been through that, they know you spoke about that, so you kind of become the person to ask about anything.
How intertwined is that with humility and honesty and removing some of the technical jargon? Because it's great to have the answers. It's something else to be able to give people what they need to hear and be able to apply it.
First of all, if you don't know, say you don't know, because we cannot know it all. Or if you have doubts, you can say, "I'm not sure about that," and because there is this imposter syndrome thing. Like I had this all my life, thinking I do not deserve to be in that place. Like some people say it's crap, but this is what it is.
Mhm.
And when this is kicking you and someone asks, basically there is the responsibility and accountability. You are going to advise something to someone, and if it fails, what they are no longer going to trust you. So you want to
Mhm.
establish trust and be transparent. So when I give an advice or I speak about something, I tell people that's my take on it. This is how I see the thing because that and that and that. Very practical take on it. And as usual, you should check and ask other people around to be sure that it's a fit for you. But don't, yeah, I mean, if you start to assume that you know the solution for everything, then you're wrong. You're wrong. There's
Mhm.
this big scientist that said, like, the more I learn, the more I realize, the less I know, or something
Yes, I
like
know.
that. Yeah.
Well, they
So,
say the guy you can either know a lot about little or a little about a lot, and it doesn't get you anywhere if you're trying to deal with a specific problem to tell the crowd that you have all the solutions. It's better to be that specific cog who can do their part and help you get there. And understanding the limitations is going to get you there. Over projecting yourself doesn't. It just puts another barrier, and it doesn't enable us to get to the end goal.
yeah. And curiosity bring you to stuff, like I did once. We do a talk on LinkedIn Live, a dash of cyber with two of my buddies, and once we did a nice post quantum computing encryption. And that was super fun because we had a specialist about post PQE, post quantum encryption, and we did learn a lot. I had a chance to meet other people on that topic before, and I'm not an expert in it. I mean, I cannot describe exactly how a quantum computer is working, although I conceptually know how it works. So
Mhm.
each exchange is a little bit more knowledge on the field. And if you ask me, I can point you to people who actually will know the answer. No, you can just drive people there. So one of the value also is knowing who knows and be able
Mhm.
to put people in relation instead of claiming that you know it all.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that I think practically we're talking about. How can you get to the next step in your career? It's as much
Yeah,
about having these experiences as understanding how to interpret it and the interpersonal skills and the soft skills to be able to make yourself a valuable team player. It's great to be brilliant. It's great to understand the problem. If you can't make it relevant and accessible to other people, then you're sitting in an ivory tower with all the answers and nobody wants to listen.
yeah, and I did sidetrack myself on that question about how to move up in that career or whatever. So the idea
Mhm.
is grow your knowledge, share about it. Use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an amazing platform for that. Share your take, ask question, engage with people commenting, and you're gonna learn something. And little by little, they're gonna tag you, involve you in the discussion, and then you're gonna be on panels like we do today, but with more people sometime. And you're gonna find some astonishing things. I mean, you learn everything. And you get like, wow, that guy is so much aware. I did once a live with the person who was the boss of Edward Snowden in the NSA.
Oh,
And
I was going to say in the NSA or in Russia now.
yeah, in the NSA, he was responsible for the Asia Pacific region,
Mhm.
and I was like, how did I end up being on a panel with the guy who was the boss of Snowden? And I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
You get in
but
these crazy situations. I once had a conversation with Douglas Fife, the guy who planned the Iraq War. And it's like, it was so disturbing, but it's like if you put your biases aside and you want to learn information, you can get access to people and learn a lot. And you change your opinions and you have the opportunity to help others grow. You don't always have to agree with what the other person says, but
correct.
learning and internalizing it and saying, there's a lot of different views in the room. I need to be able to appreciate that to be able to get me to my next point.
Yeah, that's the same thing on LinkedIn. You can see I'm connected to a lot of cloud lovers. Like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people saying a lot about it. I only think this is the right solution. And some people say you should block them. But no, I want to know your enemy. Well, it's not my enemy, but know the other, know, know
Freudian
the
slip, right?
but know what they think. Try to learn what they find in it, see the
Mhm.
value they find in it, understand, and then you become a better person, because when come the time that your work asks you what should it bring, well, you should actually provide an unbiased answer, because it's not your interest, it's the organization interest, and you have to factor all information and consideration into it to become relevant. Because if you are not relevant or you think only by yourself, no one is gonna willing to take you on board.
Mhm. So maybe we'll go into the speed round now because we're kind of running out of time. You didn't know there was a speed round. Oh no, there's prizes too. So
Yeah,
in the
I'm trapped.
yeah, there's no way out. You thought you were sick, but you're not sick. You're feeling better, and you want to participate. Woo!
Woo.
So there's so many things going on now. There's the World Cup in Qatar. There's all the unrest in Iran and Ukraine. How is this impacting the rise of state-sponsored cyber attacks? And how do people need to reassess, data privacy now that you see it's not just something that's theoretical? We have all these war zones where cyber is being used on the active battlefront every single day, against civilian, against military targets. How do people need to reassess with these coming on now?
So the fun thing is that it has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the silent war, the cyber war, data collection, reconnaissance, intelligence. Why do we have intelligence agencies? It's about, we
Mm-hmm.
want to know what the other knows, we want to know the other capabilities, and we want to be able to leverage any of this knowledge when need be. So when there is a conflict raising, like we saw Ukraine, all that stuff now, well, that's the time where all that gathered information is going to be helpful for each state against the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So, did it change anything? It just makes some more noise. It's a good lever for awareness for organization that didn't think they were a target. And fun fact is that even organizations that do provide military solutions, like we saw a lot of military-related providers that got pounded with ransomware data is created in the past weeks and even
Mm-hmm.
months. And I bet, although they are kind of aware of their position, they didn't know how critical they would have been a target and how the information is critical for the actual conflict. So this is and then when you start to think out of the box, when you do your risk assessment, it's not just about systems, patch, and your little small network or cloud infrastructure. It's how are you positioned in the global geopolitical context?
Mm-hmm.
What's your position in that? And I'm well aware that I'm fighting for privacy, and I know that privacy is also the enemy of security for some, because
Mm-hmm.
to provide security, you need knowledge. You need to know about the threat. You need to know what's happening. So you need to break privacy to gather the information to know. So I'm on a personal level, I'm full for privacy, and I trust humans, but I know that some are not. Uh, acting for good all the time, and I understand why. So I'm very aware, and I understand that privacy will not be the king of the information because it's not working for how the world works. Although people should be aware a little bit about that. So
Mm-hmm.
the change is, more noise. Suddenly, we have tons of experts raising in the news everywhere that
Mm-hmm.
I know on these topics, while seeing that from the underground or the field, and when you used to put some geofencing because threat actors are going through there, and even sometimes they use proxying, whatever. Um, we see that every day, and it's just more visible, and it's because the levers are being used. You see the power of it, but it was already a thing. It was already there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the power is being displayed. So that would be my
Yeah.
answer right now.
So maybe we'll switch a little bit. So what do you think some of the emerging technologies or threat factors that are going to make the biggest waves in 2023? What are some of the things that we've been seeing on the back burner that are going to be becoming more mainstream or more involved in the IT process?
Well, if you think about transnational criminal organization, they do not suffer from governance or compliance or boundaries or budget limit.
Mhm.
They have a goal, and they will leverage whatever is available to them, including the research work. And when you think about that, everything is for sale. I mean, everything is for sale. I did refuse some very good offer because it was not aligned with my value, but I believe that some people for big check will most likely accept to sell the stuff. And so innovation, in the past history of humanity has been driven by war because there was a
Mhm.
need for innovation. Right now, it's driven by money because whoever innovate and have the strongest skills will dominate the market, the technology, and all that thing. So crime has no governance issue. They are not, under the CCPA or GDPR. They don't care about the data collection, so they can full power mine everything they need to do the opposite of threat modeling. Actually, they do threat modeling, but not
Mhm.
in the mind of the defender.
They
But more
do it as the attacker trying to be able to take the
exactly.
credit.
This is threat modeling, so as you know, you're gonna just beat any defense that they thought about, and they have resource and time. So yeah.
Which
That's
is brilliant, and how most defenders should be approaching it anyway. You have to be thinking about how the opposition is going to be breaking your barrier instead of thinking, how do I already assess the problems and solutions I have a control over. You want to be thinking outside of the box.
yeah,
So
but budget is limited. So
oh
limitation on budget, limit of scope, but also there is a human factor in it.
mhm,
Can you take, as a security director, as a CISO, the world's threat on your shoulders, or do we even have the ability as a human being to do that, or can we just scope it, to the budget, because
mhm.
otherwise you cannot sleep. So
Yeah, you need to be realistic in what you can manage, because if you take on too much, then you're just going to drown and not solve anybody's problems.
yeah, this is why the notion of acceptable risk is there. But then,
Mhm.
it has to be done right.
Exactly. So on that note, where can we follow you? Where can we see more information? Find out your speaking engagements. See where you're talking about it and spreading your ideas.
So LinkedIn is the main platform, as you know. Yeah, funnily, I depend on Microsoft LinkedIn platform to share all that stuff. Um, but this is where people are. So this is where we make a difference. I did try to post on my blog at some point, but I don't even have the infrastructure to take all the traffic on it. And
Mhm.
I would have to put that in the cloud, but I'm not going to give them money.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
so just out of principle, so I use LinkedIn. Although people don't see all the posts I do, they can just, I do that weekly newsletter.
Mhm.
Although that's also noisy right now, because I had a chance to have this in preview. So when I started the newsletter, it had like 20,000 views. It was amazing. Now
Mhm.
I have like 25,000 subscribers. But
Mhm.
to be honest, the weekly view is between 4 and 8,000 views. So this is
Mhm.
fairly low, because everybody has a newsletter now. Everybody, sometimes like 3 times a week or whatever. So it's
Yeah,
like a
it's
lot, a lot of noise.
trying to sort through that, where it's like, how can I bring all the information together, and on the other end, how can I not overwhelm everybody?
Yeah.
Um,
So, but on that side, like some people have a strategy, when the best time to post. And I don't care about that. I just post when I can, what I think is what I want to post. And if you want to see, just go on my profile, see what I did post, and you're gonna see it. And because also it's like a memo on myself. When I share stuff, I learn about them. And when I'm in a meeting with a customer as advisor or whatever, and they tell me, "Oh, you have that system," say, "Oh, there is a vulnerability in that," and I go in my feed and I found back the information. So that's how I use it, as well as a kind of history tool, whatever.
Amazing. So thank you so much for joining us for another great conversation in cybersecurity, hosted by Cyfluencer, the cybersecurity thought leadership platform. We're thrilled to bring you to the most engaging voices and dynamic perspectives in cybersecurity, and we look forward to bringing many more. At Cyberfluencer, it's our mission to make cybersecurity more accessible to the masses, taking out the heavy brand, product, and marketing copy to help you find relevant ideas. To learn more about Cyfluencer and how we can help your business elevate above the fold and make waves in cybersecurity, check out our website, cyfluencer.com. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Feel good.
Bye bye.